welcome into episode 7 of Hawgs on the Hill. We are live from our sponsors here at Core Brewing Taproom here in Springdale, Arkansas.
I am surrounded by alcohol.
You heard it there. Fantastic. We got the Scarlet Letters here, as you can see on the table. Fantastic product. We love it here at Hawgs on the Hill in Fayetteville. Got a fun show for you today. Seth's not able to join us, but we've got David here from the Hoops Southbound show, part of Variety Sports Network. How's it going, David?
I'm good. As I just mentioned, you feel like those are giant aluminum bags filled with alcohol. How could I not be happier? Scarlet Letter was fantastic. Anytime I go to a microbrewer or anything like that, I'm just the happiest person in the world because, beer and seltzers, and this is where it is to be right now.
There you go. And we're going to talk some Razorback sports. We're going to use some updates, basketball, baseball. We're going to dive into some football news and give you kind of some questions we got online, go through some. We're going to introduce a new football segment that we're going to trial David here with. And so,
let's use the basketball.
See, that's what's going to make it fun.
It's going to be fun. I think the idea we pitched it to me.
So we'll jump in with our quick updates here. So before we dive into football, we got a new recruit that has committed to Arkansas. You've got Antonio Jordan, and he is from the lovely town of Warren, Arkansas.
You know what they do well in Warren, Arkansas? They grow tomatoes. They also make really, really good wide receivers. I'm just saying, we have a history of making good wide receivers.
That is true. He's only rated a 3-star, but I think you can probably know from, like you just said, the history that comes from Warren, Arkansas. You're going to see a kid that could potentially break out on the scene here. It's going to be big to, keep that pipeline of Warren, Arkansas coming up to Fayetteville.
Yeah, no, 100%. And what was one of the big conversations? We need quality receivers on this football team. You got to have somebody to throw the ball to. It doesn't matter how good your quarterback is, the other person on the other can't catch football. So I'm glad to see that we continue to keep in-state talent, in-state, and Antonio Jordan, I expect good things out of it because the coaching staff that's down there in Warren, Arkansas has produced great talent that's come up here and it's been extremely well for this university. And it's not just for the university. There is a list of Warren receivers that have outstanding receivers.
Yeah, true. So before we dive into our preseason football talk, we're going to jump over to some updates with basketball and baseball. As David alluded to earlier, he is the basketball guy for Hoops Southbound. We got 2 more additions to this roster that are going to be kind of some depth guys that Coach Cal brought in. That you've got Jaden Carlueta, that is a 6'6", 180 shooting guard from California. That is a freshman, not highly rated guy. And then you got transfer Melo Sanchez that's coming in from Hawaii Pacific. So give us your quick takes on those 2 guys.
Yeah, so this is exactly what Cal Perry was kind of talking about. Throwback walk-ons, or however he phrased it, making the point that we're trying to get players on this team to really be part of the practice squad and see if we can't develop these guys and they're going to be that piece. That was my number one concern with Arkansas coming in to this season. And I just got done putting together my segment for the portal where we're going through our classes on teams. And 100%, our goal jumping up and down was if Arkansas loses the player, what's next? And so these are important players that Cal Perry's having to this team, and hopefully they can be developed. That's another thing too. I know the kid who played at Pacific out there in California, he's got the ability to shoot back. It's going to be exciting. And one of the things that really Arkansas 100% needs to shoot back. A little bit better than what they did in the last season. And there has been some concern from outsiders really who are familiar with Cody Bland's game or other shooters that are always here 50%. Since they 50% before the threes are shot. But players that can add a little bit more to that shooting because you have to keep up with a team like Alabama, who, I don't know if you've seen this, it's absolutely electric. So,
Yeah, that's true. And I've seen some comparisons with the kid from Hawaii Pacific. just hinted at that he might be a type of guy that kind of killed Kentucky's tournament run last year, and Jack Goldke, that a guy that's just a sniper, shot 35% from three this past season. Yes, that is Division II, but a shooter's going to shoot at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I mean, what else would you want? And I think there's probably, if we said that we're that anywhere close to John, might cause like lynching or some Jack Goldke. Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, it would be cool if we had that kind of talent to your team. I mean, I don't think he's going to come more necessarily anytime soon, but I mean, if we got someone who's a guaranteed bucket, just they can find their way on the court.
Yeah, that's very true, and that's a good point too. It'll be interesting to see because Arkansas did, in fact, schedule that Oakland team to come to Bud Walton to play this year. You know, that might be a little bit of a revenge game for Coach Cal, and I'll be interested to see his game plan for that. I would expect for a nice run up the score and establish, what he's going to do here at Arkansas.
And just a quick note on that there, it's not like John Calipari said in this game. It's like, we shall get revenge. Like, that wasn't the idea. He's actually got a great relationship with Greg Campy, and this is a game that was actually scheduled a little bit sooner. So it's not a surprise at all. It's just timing makes for complicated.
And so with that, let's get your opinion. What do you think about Arkansas playing in Madison Square Garden?
That's exciting. I mean, that is the mecca of basketball. David Gavin used to say that we're going home all the time when we talk about these tournaments. And so, Madison Square Garden is an excellent place for basketball. It's a great venue, and then you get a quality opponent out there to play against. I mean, let's raise the level of excitement more than that. So, I'm very excited about the game up there in NSG. I think that's a great opportunity, and anytime you go play in an NBA arena, it's also a great recruiting tool in the future as well. It's like, look where we're going to play as. So it's an exciting game.
And then the latest matchup that they added is the Thanksgiving Day game versus Illinois. What do you think with that matchup? Is it just Coach Cal adding those upper tier teams and kind of not having as many of those cupcake or lower tier games that we've been used to seeing in the past?
I don't think that has anything to do with let's not schedule a cupcake thing. I think it's an opportunity to get something on your NCAA tournament resume. And I think if you want to put as many opportunities as those as possible with a team that's going to have 3 freshmen that are prominently featured on that team, you get an opportunity. One, you get an opportunity again. As many times you can to pull a 2-1 game. It's also going to be a great one when you're facing a coach like Underwood, who's one of the top 15 coaches in college basketball. So I think that's an excellent matchup to get an opportunity to build something like the rest of the resume.
I was about to say, as you see every year, a lot of these teams, you want to have those resume builders on your schedule because at the end of the day, when
that's what matters the most, especially if you want an 8 games. And anytime that's possible, we're playing at Illinois, that game is going to be on. Is that going to be on the road or is that going to be where's it at?
I think it's a neutral site game
So that one's going to be
in Kansas City.
In the top 50, you're going to be set Q1. If we check the net rating down on, and then anything at that point, if it's top 25, that's Q1A. And the NCAA tournament looks at nothing better than a Q1A opportunity. So that's a huge potential.
That's very true. It's going to be a very interesting game, especially with it being a more neutral site game, being up in Kansas City. Like you said, it can't do nothing but good things with Hawgs.
That's the point. You can't hurt yourself.
Yeah, it's one of those things where they're going to be a good team. So if you keep it close and if you don't win it, it's still not a bad loss. But if you do get the win, at the end of the day, it is going to be the resume builder that you want at the end of the year when the committee's looking at, do we put this team in the tournament and what seed do we get?
And that's what's going to matter if you want to team seed. And then let's not go on the other side. This team needs to get opportunities where they can play teams who are going to be quality in the tournament as well. When I look back at Kentucky last season, those opportunities were, for Under Calipari were North Carolina at the CBS Sports Classic. Then you had Champions Classic against Kansas after that, it was kind of dry. Like, honestly, they didn't get like a ton of opportunities. So I'm glad to see Calipari scheduling as many E5 opportunities as he can to make a great potential resume.
Yeah, that's going to be one of those
Lights
things.
is holding up. Because we use people out of the light. If they move the sun.
That's true. What would I do without, her to keep me in line, even with this show?
You made her get you presses earlier. I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, she's doing all the work right now. This show.
There you go.
That'd be for you. Go ahead, man.
So give us a quick overview of your thoughts on this year's roster. And, we know Cal's got that key core. Like we just mentioned, these two guys that have been added are going to be those depth guys, the guys that are going to be, if you do happen to have maybe an injury or maybe something of that nature. But he's got this core here after you got DJ Wagner and Trevor Brazile, now Sim coming back. That was kind of that last key piece that Cal brought back is going to be that key rotation. So now that has kind of been set, what are your thoughts on this roster and how it was built?
So I would go number one, if I'm looking to be DJ Wagner. And here's the beauty of this scenario. You can run whatever you want in the 2 and 3 spot. And if it's me, I'm looking at the potential to run Boogie Fland out at either the 2 or the 3 position. And then we know Janelle Davis has to be able to do either of those positions as well, because that's how FAU ran their offense there in Boca. So that's what I would expect to be starting in your backcourt. When you're looking at your front court, it really comes down to how much of the Duke works on his 3-point game this offseason. That's going to be a big piece of conversation because he can get an excellent stretch 4 or somebody you're playing at the 3. He's so highly athletic. I mean, he would really be guard anywhere 1 through 5. And if you don't believe me, go watch the Kansas game from last year. He had to guard Hunter Dickinson when Kentucky had no center. So there's 3 man here. So you got to figure out a way to get him on court in some fashion. But if he can shoot the 3, you can play at the 4 spot. And then at the 5, obviously, it's going to say you're talking about a top 5 analytically. One of the best centers that came in the SEC last year. And you have to go to the same as your starter. So that's who my starting 5 would be. And then I would probably be running somewhere with Brazil. Depending on how much Big Z develops, someone to run at that point. And then at the guard spot, Billy Richmond is a really excellent piece that had 3, and so is Carter Knox. And the beauty of them is both Billy Richmond is a high-level athlete, but Carter Knox is somebody that cannot have free. So Carter Knox, it just depends on the situational what you need. You need somebody to drive at that moment, or do you need somebody?
Yeah, that's true. And I think one of those things, if I'm Coach Cal, I'm getting Nellie Davis in the corner or as close to the corner as I can. When you alluded to earlier, shooting 50% on the 3-point line from those corners last year at FAU, being a key piece. Like you said, Arkansas needs to shoot it this year to keep up with teams like Alabama that are electric.
Yeah. What did we average last year? 5 3-pointers a game? That's not going to cut it when you got a team that's averaging simply 8 plus Florida or Alabama or somebody offense that cracked into the top 10 in offensive efficiency in kickball. You've got to be able to shoot the basketball. And a guy like Janelle Davis, exactly. Ellie Davis can shoot the basketball, especially when he's given a beautiful opportunity. So he killed it at FAU.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of optimism this basketball season. We were talking about before the show here. We're hoping that we can get some season tickets.
Trying, always failing, but early.
That's very, very true. We'll see what happens. I think this first season of Coach Cal could have its ups and downs, but I think he's built his roster very well with a great combo of incoming freshmen and transfer portal. Before Coach Cal was hired or as he was hired, they're talking about how he's a guy that he doesn't use the transfer portal. He can't do it. But look at him now. He brought in 3 of the top transfers out of the transfer portal.
He's got the number 1 class in the SEC according to 24/7. He's got the number 1 class according to 24/7 in the country when it comes to transfers. And then Evan Maya to not taking a single player top 150 on Evan Maya, at least out of the originally brought onto this team. Obviously, that statistics have changed, but yeah, you did not miss at all in this portal class, and it's something that I think is a great because he has struggled with portal in the past in Kentucky, so it's a great thing today, or today, off season, whatever.
Preseason, we'll call it talking season as we get closer to the fall. And with that, we'll jump over to some more transfer portal meeting. Speaking of the transfer portal, we'll jump over to Arkansas softball, where they've been a little bit busy in the transfer portal, where they've had a handful of players decide to leave the program and go somewhere else. And that, that's probably one of those things for Deichel. Could have had that conversation with them saying, hey, we've got a lot of talent coming in. They have one of the top 3 recruiting classes in the country for this upcoming season. You're losing outfielder Nigel Fontenot. She committed to McNeese State. You're losing the Camazin twins. Both Anna and Lauren are going to Nebraska. Catcher Kylie Brockman's committed to Auburn. Outfielder Casey Hoffman, she redshirted this year due to injury, but she's headed to Nebraska. And then right-handed pitcher Nikki McGavin has entered the portal but hasn't committed anywhere. And then on the flip side of that, she's got 2 additions from the transfer portal, which are top of the transfer portal additions with utility player Kaylee Wyckoff from Texas Tech, was first team All Big 12 last season, 407 batting average, 12 doubles, and 7 home runs and 35 RBIs. And then infielder Carly Davidson from Utah, so has the familiarity with Coach Gasso. They came over to be their new head coach in Arkansas last season. Hit 294, 25 hits, 5 doubles, but the key here is 5 for 6 with stolen bases on the base paths.
Is anybody going to complain about the fact that we're bringing in a first-team All Big 12 player? I don't think so. I think that's an excellent hit. Anybody who feels like that, it's worth the wait and all, especially when they play in one of the best conferences. So I think it's a great pick.
Then you just add on top of that 407 batting average. You got to love to see that hitting over 400.
4 for 10. I mean, just think about it that way. 4 out of 10 times they get on it. That's fantastic.
So then as we transition to the other diamond, Arkansas baseball, Hagen Smith has continued to get those All-American honors. He's up to 6 All-American honors after the season, rightfully deserved. It's like they've talked about. He's easily going to be a top 10 pick. I've been hearing number 7 to the Cardinals, to the Angels. It just depends. I'd love for him to stay closer to home and play in St. Louis. It would be a much easier drive to go see former Razorback play baseball.
Great. Absolutely. Hagen Smith, if he could stay anywhere local, would be great if he was playing for the Nationals together after the world placement and stuff like that. It'd be great. But obviously, he was the best pitcher in baseball. And I just wish we could get the reward that he deserved to be tripped on Omaha. That's the one thing, but I'm very proud of him. It's a situation he finds himself into going into the draft.
Yeah, that's true. Like you said, and if he somehow got drafted by the Royals, he'd play with his former teammate Caden Wallace, who is currently playing for the Nationals.
It would be awesome. Like Kansas City, please. We took former GM's son to play baseball here. Like everybody, please do it. Draft players to the Royals so they can play for the Nationals. Like this, and we will sell out every game out there at our baseball.
Agreed. So as we continue to talk transfer portal, Arkansas has continued to be active in the transfer portal. We talked last week, Arkansas has been active in the outfield. Well, they went and grabbed themselves some arms from the transfer portal, and these are some big additions. You got Logan, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, and I'm not even going to try. He's a left-handed pitcher from Ohio State. He was their ace last season, finished the season with a 4.15 ERA, 91 strikeouts, 31 walks, and 84 2/3 innings of pitching. So Dave Van Horn is reloading this bullpen, whether it be in a starting role or guys coming out of the pen in late game situations. You also add Aiden Jimenez, a right-handed pitcher from Oregon State. We all know how good Oregon State is at baseball. To take a guy like him, he did sit out the season due to injury, but in his freshman year, he had a 5.68 ERA, 30 innings of work, 22 games, 35 strikeouts, and 7 walks. And then they added a couple more outfielders. One of my favorites, just because of his name, you've got Rocco Pepe coming from Fresno State. How can you not love this man with a name like this?
Absolutely. I have a rule in my show. I don't know if you put this rule in place, but I'm allowed to mispronounce everyone's name until like 3 months of the season begins. Like, because there's no way to put all that in my head quickly. And some of these names, I admit, yeah, one that you said I have no idea how to pronounce. Yeah, I'm not even gonna try either. Like, it's not that. It's unique. I will say that is a unique name.
I was about to say Rocco Pepe is right up there with the outfielder we got from Georgia State and Maximus Martin.
Stop now. They're not repeating anything. Seconds. I'm not going to even try anything. Come on.
And then finally, with Rocco Pepe, he comes in from Fresno State. He had a slash line of 327, 392, 602 last season, 14 home runs, 56 RBIs, 16 doubles, and he had a 11.4% strikeout rate, which you've got to love. That means he's seeing the ball well, taking those walks. And then you've got Carson Bowles that's coming in from Lincoln Memorial D2 school. He had a slash line of 475, 572, 863, 15 home runs and 68 RBIs on the season with 50 walks and 18 strikeouts and 183 at-bats.
You know why the name Pepe is? Because the U.S. is playing a Copa America, and we have a striker named Pepe. Awesome. That's also why it's sticking out in my head. I'm going to keep doing this. I'll let you know this. Did I watch Lincoln Memorial play baseball? Yeah.
There you go. But Dave Van Horn's continued to attack the transfer portal. He said they may not be done yet. I would be interested to see what he does with the Texas A&M situation, and several of those guys decided to enter the portal. We'll see if they follow Schlossnagel to Texas or if they look to play elsewhere. And if they do, maybe Dave Van Horn can work some of his Arkansas magic and go get some of these top players that enter the portal from Texas A&M and help them right their wrongs and be Arkansas Razorbacks.
You know, here's just one quick thing. When I looked at the outgoing here on the baseball team, it is miraculous how many players are staying to play. Like, it's A, unfinished business, and B, they want to play for a coach like Dave Van Horn. So regardless of, some of the not getting out of the regional stuff, obviously they feel like they can still do something under Dave Van Horn. Their games and get where they want to go. So I think it's a great thing for racetrack baseball. They should have a great roster again.
Yeah, I mean, if you missed Dave Van Horn's press conference the other day, the first time we've really seen him speak to the media since regionals, he came out and talked about that. He said that exact same thing. He said, guys aren't leaving here because they like it here and they know what potential is going to come from this. Arkansas baseball is consistently ranked in the top 10. 9 out of 10 times they're going to make a regional and most likely host that regional and most likely that following super regional. Dave Van Horn has established a fantastic baseball program here in Arkansas. And I think he's continued to be fueled that he wants to get that natty. That's the one thing to me missing from his resume that, he's already a Hall of Fame coach, but I think if he adds that national championship, he's easily one of the best in the country.
Oh, absolutely. See, that's the one thing. National championship. If you're returning players like this, I think you have a chance. And then you're bringing in players that obviously you felt like were some of your concerns last season. I think you got a chance to continue in the right direction. When we get there, we'll see. And that's what spring ball's and fall ball's about.
That's true. And another thing I want to mention that I love about what Dave Van Horn's done in the transfer portal, if you've heard of the Hawaiian Brothers restaurant in Springdale, well, Arkansas now has their own version of the Hawaiian Brothers.
I heard about that.
Very true. They brought in Kahio Lloyd's little brother, Kahio Lloyd, from BYU. He's a guy that come in and has the chance to be in that starting lineup next season. So there's the potential of 3 Hawaiians in the infield next season.
I can just say there is an NIL opportunity out there. Like we're looking for right now. I mean, you can make a double pineapple flavor Scarlet Letter and make it with the boy NIL contract. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm here right now making this somewhat check for me right now as well. It's exciting and the Hawgs is off as well. So great movement forward.
I was about to say he led that BYU team in RBIs as a freshman. So.
I love that. Freshman leading in RBI, I could say that's not intimidation at all when you step up to the plate.
And so that is the latest updates on Arkansas baseball transfer portal. Dave is going to continue to be active. A big piece of, what he's going to be looking for in the next coming weeks will depend on what happens in the major league draft and what guys come back, what guys get drafted. And, that's what Dave said in his press conference. He's just like, I want to finalize my roster. I need to know what guys, if they didn't get drafted, where they want to go, are they going to come back? One of those guys that has been mentioned could come back is Kendall Diggs. Dave Van Horn revealed in his press conference that he played 2/3 of the season with his complete shoulder tear in his labrum after a bad slide against NC State. So that really gives an explanation of why his batting average really dropped off, going from 380s early in the season to mid 200s late into the season. When he's one of those guys, if you remember the previous year, had a big bat for Arkansas and hit a lot of home runs. So if he gets that shoulder repaired, decides to come back to Arkansas with our fantastic facilities, can get healed up, could be a key piece for Arkansas next season.
You good? Yeah, absolutely.
And so now we'll jump over to our main part of the show. We're going to do some preseason football talk. We reached out to you guys and had some questions. If you think of any right now, feel free to throw them in the chat there. We're going to start off with the most common question I've got is, what's the record going to be this season? And we're going to start this off here with, do you think the Hawks surprise or disappoint this season in their record prediction? That comes from Will Lennox off of X Twitter. That's almost a loaded question, if you will.
What is surprise or disappoint? That's fine. So when I saw this question you sent it to me for the show, I looked up on Pick the Bet. But let's just consider that real fast. If you look up on Vegas Insider, we're projected how many games are going to be next season. Vegas Insider has it at 5.5. So over or under 5 games, that's the question. Is it going to be 5 wins or is it going to be 6? There's a possibility. Here's the thing. And talking football with me, how I come across when I talk football, but I will say, despite the logical side, if you look at the recruiting class, you look at the transfer class, I don't think you're necessarily on paper look like a team that's going to evolve. However, what has stuck out in my mind, something that I simply can't ignore, do you remember the Missouri State game a couple of years ago and all the panic that was involved with that game? I mean, the coach that was over there was Bobby Petrino, and he didn't have a roster made of 4-stars or any upper level 3-star players. This is a 1AA school, FBS school or FCS school. So if he can do that going into a hostile SEC environment and a crowd that really wants to beat him, what can he do as your offensive coordinator to possibly win a game that you shouldn't win? When you look at the stats on his favorite. Yeah, right. But we can talk about the Bobby Petrino motorcycle game some other time. It's a crazy idea I had. So.
Yeah, I agree. You look at what he did at Missouri State with a team, like you said, that don't have those 4 or 5-star guys lined up and down the roster. He was able to come in here to an SEC school, even though Arkansas hasn't been the best in recent years, but they're still at that level. They are an SEC school, have that talent, and took it down to the wire. Arkansas was
in a fight for a 60 minutes against an FCS team. And that was a regular team that also made a bowl game. These are the teams they shouldn't have beaten that season. It was just coming off a 9-win season as well. So 100%, you have a coach that prepares well on the offensive side of the ball. He literally just 3 receivers out there in space to guardable routes. Extremely difficult routes.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where if you look at last season, how many games were 1-score games where if you had a more potent offense, a Bobby Petrino type of offense that wants to score points, does last season look different? I think you might look.
Bobby Petrino's offense last year. This year's team looks a little bit less talented, but 100% can you get there? And that's what kind of should give people hope is the fact that you have somebody who has shown in the past that they're capable of winning games or being in dogfights they shouldn't be in. So I think that's a little bit honest. So do I think they surprised at this point? I think there's a lot of cards on the table when I look at things. Obviously, they win 5 games. I'll be optimistic. I don't have a football show. No one's going to drag me later, in my opinion. So I'm going to just say they surprised us. They go 6-6. That's what I'll do right now.
I was about to say, Steph and I talked about this the other night on the show, and we went on a show with some Texas podcasts with those guys, and we're kind of talking about the season, the outlook. And Seth said he went with 5-7. I went with the optimistic 6-6 with a bowl win, giving you 7. I think that's going to be crucial if Coach Pittman wants to keep his job.
So where do you think, if we're going to win 6 games, Caleb, where do you think the pinnacle point is that you have to win that game? This is a game that's going to decide how far you're going to go.
I think one of those key games that Arkansas has been in it in the past few years, that it always seems to be a key game, is the Texas A&M game. It's right in the middle of the season. You've got an early test with Oklahoma State, which has the chance to win the Big 12. If you can go in there and get that win, that could honestly set you up for how the rest of the season might go. If you can go and compete with what is basically an unknown Bobby Petrino offense right now, if they can go in and compete with a Big 12 school like Oklahoma State, I think the key game down the stretch is Texas A&M.
Hey, look, I want you to know that you're doing a show right now with Oklahoma State fans building. Hey, come back. So, when was the last? So we have the Oklahoma State fans in the house. We're going to ask. When was the last time you guys played an SEC team in Stillwater? What year? And if you named the team as well. It was Georgia. What year? Well, Des Bryant was playing that game in 2009. Yes. The first. Oh, yeah. I got the game right. 100%. But yeah, no, so it was. This is the first time that an SEC team has visited Stillwater with football. It's exciting. And it's exciting also for Oklahoma State fans who haven't had a team make that trip in a while. It's a very close game as well. I've often said they need to do this game off of basketball, especially now that the current Crimson Classic is going away. And play this game in Folsom basketball as well, like maybe the Sutton Classic. I think that would be something that would be great. This is a game that we should be playing more often with Oklahoma State and Arkansas. I think it should be one of those games we potentially have.
I agree. When you're 3 hours away from another Power 5 school, you should play that school more often. And I will say, they are my pick to win the Big 12. I think they have a legit chance this year.
10-2 looks really good.
I was about to say, when you're looking at an offense that returns the entire offensive line, that are all seniors, you have Ollie Gordon back, you have an experienced quarterback and Alan Bowman back. That is going to be a tough team. The reason I think it could be a big game, it is early in the season, and that is usually when teams are really figuring out themselves. With a lot of returners like that, the continuity is going to be there. They're going to know the offense. So back to, I was saying that's going to be a big test for Arkansas. And what this Bobby Petrino offense is going to do, he developed quarterbacks really well. So, let's see what he does with Taylor Green and this offense that has a lot of experience back end receivers.
It can definitely be exciting. So I've got the schedule pulled out here because we were talking about this before the show. You got UAB, Oklahoma State in Stillwater, UAB, Auburn, and Texas A&M. My opinion, just wholeheartedly, you got to win one of those road games. I don't know which. Are you going to beat Oklahoma State or are you going to beat them? You got to win one. That's one win for Sam Pittman this season, especially if you're talking about if you're coming out of that Texas A&M game 2-3 before you got to play Tennessee. That is a pivotal point in the season and one of the most significant ones. So let's see where we are after you leave Jerry World.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. An anonymous fellow SEC coach said that he wouldn't be surprised if Coach Pittman didn't make it past Halloween, which is a real possibility. If you look at, like you're talking about, you go 2-3 in those first 5 games, and then you have Tennessee coming to Fayetteville, you have LSU coming to Fayetteville. Those are not going to be easy games, and you've got to win some of those early season games because your SEC wins are going to be hard to come by, like we were talking about before the show. You're looking at maybe Auburn, it's a road game, or Mississippi State, that's a road game. Maybe you can steal one at home, maybe, but that's going to be a tough ask with a very talented LSU coming back that is replacing a Heisman winner. And then you have Texas coming to town. We know what they have, probably the number 2 team in the SEC this year behind Georgia. I mean, those wins are going to be hard to come by.
They're certainly hard to come by, and this one, I mean, the best opportunities to win games in the SEC this season are on the road. So you better get comfortable out there because Mississippi State, Auburn, I hate even saying it, but maybe Missouri even is your best chances to win an SEC game, and none of those are.
The key is going to be Arkansas teams to do it at least once or twice a year. Is you've got to win 1 or 2 games that you're not expected to win. Yes, that probably means giving up a loss or 2 to a game that you should win. We've seen that be how this Arkansas team's worked the past few years. Is you'll lose 1 or 2 that you shouldn't, and then win 1 or 2 that you will surprise people. Personally, myself, I'd love for Arkansas to come out and surprise Texas and kind of knock them off their high horse as they're coming into the SEC. But that percentage is very, very low.
All right, so you had another question here from you.
I believe the second question comes from Facebook.
Okay, Facebook. Okay, so some sort of media. Okay, so what was the next question?
So the next question is, who's going to be Arkansas's kicker? We know Arkansas lost a fantastic kicker in Cam Little that got drafted by Jacksonville. So he leaves Arkansas to go play in sunny Florida. And now you've got to replace a guy that's been here for several years and has been really Mr. Consistency to now who's going to fill that void. You've got
Kyle Ramsey and Christian. I feel like pretty solid pick, right? He just took another transfer to replace a kicker that maybe wasn't too great in the spring game.
That's very true. He's a guy that came in after the spring game. So unless you look at the tape from him and Abilene Christian, you don't know what you're getting as far as, at the end of the day, you're still kicking the ball.
You're kicking a football down the field. Kickers are a different breed. I mean, like, they just are.
But one of the other options is a guy that transferred in from Hawaii that, had a lot of optimism coming in. You're looking at him. He's Matthew Shipley. I mean, he didn't have a great audition in the spring game. It did not go well for him. But then you've also got Vito Calvaruso, that is a very name in Arkansas, redshirt senior. Was here at Arkansas before, left the program, and went up to Wisconsin, I believe, and now is back. And then you've also got freshman Charlie Vondermeeten. So there's a lot of options out there. I'm interested to see who would go. After just the not great performance in the spring game, I'd be willing to roll the dice on a guy from Abilene Christian. Let him come in and show what he can do at the SEC Power 5 program level.
I love to see Ramsey. Absolutely. I mean, you have 14 or 15, and it has long 55 yards. That's kind of that's what I'm looking for. So 100%, I would say that's probably your starter right now. Because you think in the later situation, you think you're going to take. So I think that might be your starting kicker is the race, but we'll find out later.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I would love to see him come in and have success. We've kind of been spoiled the past few years with having Cam Little, a guy that, for the most part, is Mr. Automatic. But with that being said, we'll jump.
We're all in this camp. We all know we're in this camp. It's a long NFL career.
I was about to say, at least he gets to play in sunny Florida in Jacksonville.
Yep, absolutely. I would be there. Absolutely. Put me on the beach. Put me on the Atlantic Coast kicking field goals. I'll miss all of them, but it'll be great.
We'll just have you on the practice squad, David.
You what now?
We'll just have you on the practice squad.
I don't think I would make a practice squad. No, I would not make a practice squad.
You never know.
I mean, you're sitting in my bad ear right now, so I'm making sure that actually was the question you asked. But
so with that, we'll jump over to our new segment that we're going to introduce for this preview show. we're going to call it pre and post snap. So we're going to
Love it.
I'm going to give you some options here, David, and we're going to talk pre-snap being before the situation and post-snap after. And the first question that I think a lot of Arkansas people really wanted to know was pre-snap, you lose with the way the season ended, you clean house with your offensive coordinator. Post-snap, you bring in a guy like Bobby Petrino that a lot of people are wanting to bring back for a long time now. What is your thoughts on post-snap of making that pivot and bringing the man, Bobby Petrino, back to Arkansas?
So I think everyone remembers the Matt Stereo when you brought in Bobby Petrino as your offensive coordinator. Initially, it just started out with, no one knows. This is a joke, right? And then it was the most exciting thing in college sports for 10 minutes. It was absolutely wild. Bobby Petrino is an outstanding offensive line. So he brings a lot of optimism for a team that honestly had zero optimism at the end of last season. And I think that was one of the biggest takeaways from the post-snap. That's kind of my takeaway from it.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things where the hype is there, and a lot of people are wondering if how do I phrase this? The game has passed him by, with him being around such a long time. But you've got to remember that he still is one of the best offensive minds in college football, and that he has coached guys like Lamar Jackson. Not saying Taylor Green is going to be Lamar Jackson, but he has several characteristics that are going to be very similar. And that leads into the next pre-snap, post-snap, is you lose an experienced guy like KJ Jefferson to the transfer portal after an abysmal season by him. But then you go in and get a very raw, talented guy like Taylor Green that is very similar to KJ in size, build, and how he plays the game. How do you feel comparing those to an Arkansas team with KJ Jefferson versus this Arkansas team this year with Taylor Green, who had the same set of wide receivers last year and this year? What do you think Taylor Green will do in a Bobby Petrino offense this season?
That's a great question. I have no expectation because I don't know how the offense is going to be. That's my biggest concern, 100%. Is can we move the football together with the offensive line? That's what's going to be able to happen. So my feeling on and how successful Graham's going to be is going to be dependent upon the thing that always matters in football. Do you have the protection? Can you move the football? How well? So that's to me where I'm going to come. That was the problem with Arkansas. And if you had ever told me that an offensive line would be a concern after Sam Pittman, I would have been baffled by that tape. But that was the reality last year.
I was about to say, I think it's safe to say that last year in that situation, it was very eye-opening. And that's when you saw a change in offensive line coaching. Arkansas let go and brought in Eric Mateos, a guy that is going to be very, familiar with Petrino, coached at Baylor, in the Big 12, another Power 5 conference. So it's one of those things where I'll be interested to see how this change in personnel goes, how the transfers that Arkansas brought in, from, you've got a lot of new faces on that offensive line, and this is going to be make or break for Sam Pittman this year. And I think if you have another bad offensive line, you may not last long. And like we said, that's where you come into, he may not make it halfway through the season if you have another bad offensive line and poor offensive outings throughout those first 5 to 6 games.
This is a jury conversation that's turned into at this point. We're just talking very lighthearted right now football, but that's and it's got to be one of those things that we find success on the offensive line if you're going to have any success with Bobby Petrino. Here's the good news. I do remember back in spring ball, everyone was saying the offense was far part of where the defense was at the time. So I think that there definitely can be progress made this season where you're going to be able to at least move the football. So I think Green can be successful. I think he can definitely be successful this first year.
So kind of that was the two big ones that I had that I wanted to talk about, pre-snap, post-snap. Is there any other things that you're curious about for this football season, David?
Say it again.
Are there any other things or, surrounding this team that you're curious about going into this season?
I think one of the things that I'm most curious about, and this is something that I'm constantly curious about, is what is going to be the future of recruiting at Arkansas. Like coming into the season, I know the Texas game. Okay, I'll stick to this season. I'll do that. Let's talk about the Texas game because that's the one I'm most excited about. That's the one that everyone's most excited about. Especially if you have any ties to the state of Texas, family-wise or anything like that. That's the one you care about. If you listen to my show, I have two brothers who are Texas fans. They might be nuts. So like that is a family affair, and it's gonna be great for the first time in what? Is it in 34 years now since Arkansas? 32 years since Arkansas has been in the same conference as Texas. This has been a conference game. That's gonna be a great moment to bring together what used to be one of Arkansas's most significant games. That's what I'm looking forward to. And it's at home. The only thing that stinks about it is an 11 a.m. kickoff. I hate that. That should never happen. No matter how bad it is.
Yeah, I think that was a miss on planning part by ESPN and those guys. But we're not the decision makers. But like you said, I think it's going to be a great game that you bring two different generations together. I'm sure your parents and, like my dad as well was talking about, he remembers the old rivalry games between Arkansas and Texas in what used to be the Southwest Conference game. But now you have Texas joining the SEC, and it's going to be a new rivalry renewed with some of the younger generation of fans.
Definitely will be a new one because there's a whole lost generation that doesn't know the importance of that game unless they have family that's associated with the area. I used to have a boss that told me to take off Bacon shirts. When I came in, wearing a Razor shirt. So it still matters to people, even in the state of Texas. It's not the biggest rivalry will never be A&M, will never be Oklahoma, but they still care about it. Especially fans from the Dallas area and Texas, they care about it. So it'll be exciting. It's a game that I'm anxious to get.
I think another game that I'm looking into, and that I think could be a big game. It's always a good game with Arkansas. We saw Arkansas, as bad as they were last season, stay competitive in that game on the road. Is you have LSU coming to town this year. That's always a close game. It usually seems no matter how good one team is, how bad the other is. To me, I would call that the rivalry I grew up with between Arkansas. A lot of people may say, no, it's not. Even LSU fans may say, oh, Arkansas is not a rivalry game. There's the forced rivalry Arkansas is trying to create with Missouri, but I'm one of those people that grew up watching Arkansas fight for that golden boot in Little Rock or Baton Rouge the day after Thanksgiving.
That's always going to be a game that matters. I'm 100% with you. As a kid who grew up in Central Arkansas, that game is more and more every season we played at LSU there. It's a great game. I always thought, though, that they'll never consider us number one rival because their number one rival is very obvious. Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a team that I consider frequently as like one of the top rivals that we would off play. And that was one of the biggest games growing up as someone who grew up in the central and eastern part of the state as well. So I'm always excited about that game because of the regional implications.
Yeah, so kind of back that first question to make sure it's out there. My prediction, so for this Arkansas season, I'm going to go with the optimistic 6-6, and we'll make the bowl game and potentially win 7 games. And, that would allow Pittman to keep his job for one more season.
I'll rock with you. I'll go 6-6, and I think it's going to be very optimistic at that point. But by the training block. I think you're dead wrong. You're absolutely dead wrong in this Vegas line at 5.5. Go for the 5. But sometimes I just think back to that Missouri State game and how impressive it was for that game. That what he pulled off the game here.
Yeah, I think the people that are the naysayers on Bobby Petrino, I think they're looking at his last season down in Texas A&M. But you got to remember, he even came out and said that he was forced to still use Jimbo's offense in his terminology. So it wasn't a true Bobby Petrino offense like we're used to seeing, like you said, at Missouri State. That's a lot of people are questioning, well, maybe has he lost it or does he still not have it? he wasn't running his true offense. He was running a Jimbo Fisher offense that he probably had very limited say on. So I think that's the biggest unknown and could be, like you said, could be the coin for the does Arkansas have a successful season and win, those 6 to 7 games? Is do we have a more potent offense that can score points? Or, on the flip side, does this offense still not look great? And, people point out that it wasn't that great of a hire.
We'll find out. We'll find out for sure. And regardless, I think as you're talking about if Pittman's not around, I think someone's still going to get the opportunity. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's the hope between a lot of people that if Pittman does get the axe this season, you have one Bob Petrino step up as the interim head coach and gets the chance to redeem himself after the motorcycle incident several years ago.
We'll never know. We'll be talking about that forever. I'm just saying, like it's the first day of the season. If it wasn't, in August, when this first takeoff, August 31st, August 29th.
It's also in Little Rock.
It's also in Little Rock, but it does not mean I like the coach. Yeah. So very sad that my first cookout of the season will not be in leather jackets and helmets. That was my plan. Maybe we'll save that for another round.
We'll have to. So as we wrap up here, one other fun question for you, David. How excited are you for NCAA Football 25 to get here?
So I already pre-ordered and I got early access to the game. And by the way, those ratings were awful. Did you see those? Colorado is not in the top 25. There's no way. I like Deion too, but a lot.
I was about to say, you've got the Deion effect there that's getting them up there in the top 25.
Yeah, the Deion effect should not make you a top 25 offense. The game that is frequently in the past been pretty darn good historically about putting ratings together with teams. But that was the other thing so far that bummed me out. And some of the home field stuff, dude, it's disrespect those teams. But I'm excited. I'm going to be with my TV, which is not the time that I need to be doing because I have other things going on in my life right now. I'm studying the bar. So, that's kind of important. So there's going to be a totally wasted day as I try to take the right balance to make them national champions. So
I was about to say, they kind of led in my next question there with Arkansas off the table. Who's going to be your dynasty building team?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm going to start with Bryce Allen. The reason we started because that's the school that rejected me and wasn't smart enough to go to Rice.
Looking at that, for me, I would have to go with the Boise State Broncos or the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers.
Normally, in all honesty, Norman is one of the worst teams there. And in the past, it's been Idaho, and no one should ever disrespect Kitty Doe. It's legit. But Idaho will be on our set. There will be no return of the Vandals this year, but I'm going to find whoever has the worst rankings on there. I'm going to turn it into a powerhouse. I'm going to make it really hard, so I'm going to try to recruit just in some of these cases.
I was about to say, I just want to have the ability to play on the blue field at Boise State. Exactly. My sister-in-law lives in Boise. I've been up there. I've visited and seen the field. My next goal is get to a game up there. But it is something in person. And in case you missed our interview with Taylor Green, who transferred from there, he said it is very weird coming from – he adjusted to playing on a blue field. So whenever he come back home to Dallas and practiced on a regular field, he said to him that was weird. And also he confirmed the rumor that, yes, birds do think it is a pond because they have came out for practice before and found feathers on the field.
That is the best urban legend ever. And I'm glad that he confirmed for us that you think it's a pond. So he crashed to a football field. That's very sad. But other than that, love that urban legend.
And before we get out of here, David, let people know where they can find you at for all the, not only Arkansas basketball content, but SEC-wide content.
Yeah, so if you're here at Core Brewing with us today, just please take out your phone and open up YouTube and look up the Hoops Southbound show. And you can give us a follow there. We're talking SEC basketball at least once a week, but we have great series going well. We're actually working right now on the Freshman 15 series. The freshman 15 series will be about the best fit 15 freshmen coming into the SEC this upcoming season. It'll be full scouting reports, videos, etc. Additionally, Maddie and I will be doing our NBA draft recap. Crazy to see how far Dalton can go down. But going to the Lakers, it'll be a great one. We'll be talking, doing NBA draft recap. We'll be talking also the fact that Arkansas is named one of the best schools to produce NBA talent in the country historically. So that'll be our show this week.
Hey, David, who else also got drafted by the Lakers?
I'm not. I talked for a solid 20 minutes begging the Celtics to draft Ronnie Hayes. Just that would have been the worst thing ever, and I'm here for it. And they wouldn't do it, and I'm very sad.
Yeah, you got to hate it. So as we wrap up here, we're Hawgs on the Hill live here with our sponsor, Core Brewing. Get out here anytime you can. They have a fantastic environment, fantastic drinks. And Steph and I will be starting our position by position breakdown for Arkansas football in the next couple weeks as we go through, break down each position, look at the depth, and who we think could be key guys in those position groups. And once again, we thank you for tuning in to Hawgs on the Hill, and we will see you guys next week.
You know what? I want to, since we're podcast hosts, does that make us eligible to become a head coach of the Lakers?
I didn't think about that, but maybe so.
Hey,
Hey, NBA teams out there, if you're watching this, Dave and I are available. We'll come in.
I can go.
So with that, we'll be out of here, and we'll see you guys next week.